Finding the perfect laptop for music production can feel like searching for a needle in a haystack of lagging playbacks and crashing sessions. But what if you could have a portable studio that handles massive plug-in chains without breaking a sweat? Today, we are breaking down the absolute best laptops for making music, cutting through the marketing noise to find the machines that actually deliver when you have 50 tracks loaded up in your DAW. 7. Swift Go 14. Getting hands-on with the Swift Go 14, the immediate takeaway is just how incredibly light and portable this machine actually is. Throwing it into a backpack to head to a collaborative studio session or a coffee shop to sketch out some quick beats feels completely effortless. The chassis is surprisingly rigid for its weight class, giving you a sense of security when you are constantly moving between different creative spaces. When you boot up your DAW of choice, the Intel Core i7 processor handles initial project loading with a snappy responsiveness that feels great for capturing sudden bursts of inspiration. Navigating through standard audio tracks and basic software instruments is a smooth experience, allowing you to lay down the foundation of a track without feeling held back by the hardware. The display is also remarkably crisp, which helps when you're staring at dense MIDI arrangements for hours on end. However, as I started pushing the track counts higher and layering multiple instances of CPU-hungry synthesizers like Serum or Omnisphere, the reality of its ultra-portable design became glaringly apparent. The thermal constraints of such a thin chassis mean that the fans aggressively kick into high gear quite early into a heavy session. This fan noise is not just distracting. It becomes a genuine liability if you're trying to record acoustic instruments or vocals in the same room using a sensitive condenser microphone. Furthermore, the moment you start adding complex mastering chains and heavy reverb plugins to your master bus, you will likely encounter frustrating audio dropouts and the dreaded system overload messages. It forces you to constantly freeze tracks or increase your buffer size, which introduces latency and completely kills the vibe when you're trying to play in a MIDI keyboard part live. You are constantly fighting the machine rather than flowing with your music. 6. Microsoft Surface Pro. The concept behind the Microsoft Surface Pro is undeniably appealing for the modern, constantly traveling producer. Being able to detach the keyboard and hold your entire digital audio workstation in your hands like a tablet feels incredibly futuristic. Tapping directly on the screen to draw in automation curves or adjusting virtual faders with your fingers provides a tactile connection to the music that a traditional mouse and keyboard setup simply cannot match. The display itself is gorgeous, featuring vibrant colors and a high resolution that makes navigating complex user interfaces in applications like FL Studio or Ableton Live visually stunning. The battery life, thanks to the new Snapdragon architecture, is genuinely impressive, allowing you to sketch out ideas for hours on a flight or a train without frantically searching for an outlet. It feels like a device built specifically for the spontaneous, untethered creator. Yet, that same Snapdragon processor is exactly where the dream starts to crack when you transition from sketching ideas to serious production work. Because it uses an ARM-based architecture rather than the traditional x86 architecture found in standard Windows laptops, a terrifying amount of essential music production software simply refuses to run natively. You are forced to rely on an emulation layer, which severely bottlenecks the CPU performance and introduces unpredictable latency spikes. During my testing, I found that several of my legacy VST plugins and even some modern niche effects simply would not load or would crash the DAW entirely. As a producer, your plugin library is your sonic palette, and discovering that half of your tools are inaccessible or unstable is a massive deal breaker. You spend more time researching software compatibility workarounds on forums than you do actually making music. Additionally, the form factor itself becomes a massive physical limitation during long, serious mixing sessions. The kickstand design means it has zero lapability, forcing you to always work at a proper desk. 5. Dell XPS 15. Stepping into the realm of the Dell XPS 15 feels like a return to trusted, reliable territory for Windows-based music production. The build quality is exceptional, featuring a carbon fiber palm rest that stays remarkably comfortable even after hours of resting your hands during a grueling editing session. It possesses a premium heft that assures you this machine is built to handle serious workloads without buckling under pressure. The screen real estate on the 15-inch display, particularly with its taller 16:10 aspect ratio, is an absolute godsend for audio work. Having the extra vertical space means you can see significantly more tracks in your arrangement view or more plugins in your mixer channel without constantly scrolling up and down. It fundamentally improves your workflow, allowing you to maintain a better visual overview of your entire composition. Under the hood, the processing power and RAM configurations allow you to confidently load up massive, multi-gigabyte contact orchestral libraries without a second thought. I was able to run incredibly dense projects with dozens of audio stems and heavy processing without experiencing the crippling audio dropouts found on lesser machines. It simply powers through the workload, allowing you to stay entirely focused on the creative mixing process. The keyboard and trackpad experience on the XPS 15 is among the best in the Windows ecosystem, which is crucial when you're executing hundreds of precise edits, fades, and cuts. Every keystroke feels deliberate, and the massive trackpad makes navigating sprawling timelines incredibly intuitive. It is a machine that gets out of your way and lets your fingers fly across the interface seamlessly. Crucially, the thermal management here is a significant step up from the Ultra Portables. While the fans do become audible under maximum load during a final bounce down, they maintain a low, consistent hum rather than an annoying high-pitched whine. 4. Lenovo ThinkPad P1 Gen 7. Moving to the Lenovo ThinkPad is essentially moving your studio from a bedroom to a professional, commercial facility. This is a true mobile workstation engineered from the ground up for absolute stability and raw computing power. The iconic ThinkPad durability means you can drag this laptop from gig to gig or studio to studio with zero anxiety about it surviving the harsh realities of the road. When you load a project on the P1, it operates with a level of effortless authority that is genuinely inspiring. I tested it with an enormous electronic project featuring over 100 tracks, countless instances of convolution reverb and heavy mastering limiters, and the playback remained perfectly smooth. It handles polyphonic heavy lifting and deep processing chains without ever breaking a sweat or forcing you to freeze a single track. The keyboard on this machine is legendary for a reason. For producers who rely heavily on complex macros and rapid-fire key commands to chop samples and arrange beats, the tactile feedback and key travel provided here are entirely unmatched. It reduces hand fatigue over long sessions, making the physical act of interacting with your DAW a genuinely pleasant experience. Connectivity is another area where the ThinkPad absolutely shines. It features a robust, comprehensive selection of ports that allows you to plug your high-end audio interface, external synthesis hardware, and multiple display monitors directly into the machine. You can finally leave the dongles at home and enjoy a reliable, direct connection to all of your most important studio gear. Furthermore, the DPC latency, a critical metric for Windows audio performance that determines how well a computer handles real-time audio streams, is incredibly well optimized on this workstation. You can record live instruments or track vocals with an impossibly low buffer size, providing a snappy, delay-free monitoring experience for the artist, which is absolutely critical for capturing a perfect performance. 3. ASUS ProArt P16. The ASUS is a machine that clearly understands the specific, nuanced needs of digital creators. From the moment you open the lid, it is obvious that this laptop was designed to be the centerpiece of a creative workflow. The matte black finish and sleek, professional aesthetics look right at home sitting next to high-end studio monitors and boutique outboard analog gear. The absolute standout feature that sets this laptop apart from music production is the integrated ASUS dial built right into the chassis. I mapped this physical dial directly to my DAW, and it completely revolutionized how I interacted with my projects. Using it to scrub through the timeline, precisely adjust automation nodes, or tweak the parameters of a synthesizer plugin feels infinitely more musical and intuitive than dragging a mouse. The processing overhead available on the ProArt P16 is staggering. It cuts through complex mixing sessions like a hot knife through butter, allowing you to utilize resource-heavy oversampling on your distortion plugins and linear phase EQs without causing the audio engine to stutter. It gives you the freedom to mix with your ears rather than constantly monitoring your CPU usage meter in terror. ASUS has also done an incredible job tuning the acoustic profile of the cooling system. Even when pushing the CPU to its absolute limits during a heavy mixdown, the thermal exhaust remains impressively quiet. This is a massive advantage when you're making critical EQ decisions and need to hear the subtle nuances of a track without the interference of a loud laptop fan whining in the background. The display is not only massive but incredibly color accurate, which might seem irrelevant for audio, but it provides a clean, easy-to-read workspace that reduces eye strain during late-night sessions. The sheer amount of visual real estate means you can comfortably keep your arrangement view, your mixer, and several plug-in windows open simultaneously without the screen ever feeling cramped or cluttered. 2. ASUS Zenbook S16. Testing the ASUS Zenbook felt like holding the absolute cutting edge of mobile technology in the palm of my hand. This laptop manages to pack an unbelievable amount of power into an impossibly thin and lightweight chassis. It is the kind of laptop that you actually want to take everywhere, ensuring that you're always ready to capture a musical idea the second inspiration strikes, regardless of where you are. The new AMD Strix Point processors inside this machine are nothing short of a revelation for mobile producers. They provide a level of performance that rivals bulky desktop replacements, but with a degree of power efficiency that is simply mind-blowing. You can run massive, complex arrangements entirely on battery power without noticing any dip in performance or artificial throttling. Because the processor is so efficient, the cooling system barely has to work under normal music production loads. This results in a laptop that operates in near total silence the vast majority of the time. You can comfortably set up a microphone right next to the computer to record delicate acoustic guitar parts or whisper quiet vocals without worrying about fan bleed ruining your perfect take. The premium materials used in the chassis design not only look stunning, but actively help dissipate heat, ensuring the palm rests stay perfectly cool under your hands. There is nothing worse than a laptop that turns into a space heater during a long mixing session, but the Zenbook S16 remains incredibly comfortable to work on hour after hour, day after day. Despite its slender profile, it handled everything I threw at it with absolute ease. I loaded up dense electronic music projects packed with hundreds of stems, complex routing matrices, and heavy side chain compression, and the playback never skipped a beat. It provides the ultimate balance of extreme portability and uncompromising professional power. 1. Apple 2024 MacBook Pro. Here we are at the absolute pinnacle of music production laptops. The Apple 2024 MacBook Pro is not just the best laptop on this list, it is arguably the greatest piece of mobile music production hardware ever created. It entirely removes the computer from the creative equation, allowing you to focus purely on the music without ever worrying about system resources, latency, or stability. The seamless integration between the M-series chips and Mac OS Core audio provides an ultra-low latency experience straight out of the box that Windows machines still struggle to match without extensive tweaking. You plug in your interface, boot up Logic Pro, Ableton, or Pro Tools, and everything just works flawlessly. It is the industry standard for a reason, providing a rock-solid foundation that professionals trust their livelihoods on. Testing this machine with the most demanding sessions I could possibly construct resulted in 0 dropouts, even at impossibly low buffer sizes. I was able to play complex piano patches with enormous polyphony, layered with multiple orchestral libraries, and the latency was completely imperceptible. It genuinely feels like you are playing a hardware instrument rather than triggering software on a computer. The battery life on the MacBook Pro is completely unprecedented in the professional audio world. You can literally mix an entire album on a cross-country flight, running dozens of heavy plugins, and still have battery left over when you land. This level of untethered freedom completely changes how and where you can produce professional-grade music. Finally, the thermal efficiency is so spectacular that the fans almost never turn on. You are provided with the absolute silence required for critical listening and professional audio recording, all while packing the processing power of a high-end desktop studio computer into a backpack. It is a flawless machine that easily takes the #1 spot for any serious music producer.